Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host, Bill Stierle. And, you know, Bill, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today about something that we've both seen on social media. And I don't want to set it up too much before I just read it. I'm going to say, though, I'm going to share my screen for those of you that are watching the video here in a moment. Those of you listening, check out the blog post and you can see what I'm about to be reading from. But this is something that I saw on Facebook, and it comes from Reddit. And I'm just going to say, thank goodness it was on Facebook, because I can't do Reddit. That is like a very complicated platform for me. But anyway, right. So it's a very, what this was published in a newspaper, and I'm going to, so I'm going to share it and I'm going to read it. It'll take about 30 seconds, and then we're going to have a very interesting discussion. This is called Freedom to Not Wear a Mask, published in a newspaper. It says, "Welcome to the Freedom Café. We trust you to make your own choices if you want to wear a face mask. And in the same spirit of individual liberty, we allow our staff to make their own choices about the safety procedures they prefer to follow as they prepare and serve your food. We encourage employees to wash their hands after using the bathroom, but we understand that some people may be allergic to certain soaps or may simply prefer not to wash their hands. It is not our place to tell them what to do. We understand that you may be used to chicken that has been cooked to 165 degrees. We do have to respect that some of our cooks may have seen a meme or a YouTube video saying that 100 degrees is fine, and we do not want to encroach on their beliefs. Some servers may wish to touch your food as they serve it. There is no reason that a healthy person with clean hands can't touch your food. We will take their word for it and that they are healthy and clean. Water temperature and detergent are highly personal choices, and we allow your dishwashing team to decide we allow our dishwashing team to decide how they'd prefer to wash the silverware you will put into your mouth. Some of you may get sick, but almost everyone survives food poisoning. And we think you'll agree that it's a small price to pay for the sweet freedom of no one ever being told what to do, and especially not for the silly reason of keeping strangers healthy." And I'm going to give credit to this. This is credited by Kathony, Jerauld, I believe, of Amador City. I got to be honest, I don't know where Amador City is, but This is a very interesting piece that was, a photograph taken of it in a newspaper. And I enjoyed it, Bill, certainly. I enjoyed reading it. But I have to say, I have kind of mixed feelings about it. This being a communication show, I would like messages that are going to stick, that are going to resonate with people, and that are going to be convincing to people. And I don't know if this is going to do it, because it seems to me the headline of, freedom not to wear a mask would draw a lot of people in who are in alignment in their thoughts with, I think being forced to wear a mask infringes on my freedom. And as they start to read it, they're going to get a couple paragraphs in and be like, oh, this isn't really about the freedom to not wear a mask. This is trying to trick me into thinking that I should wear a mask to protect others, and I don't like that. So I think they might feel bait and switched, but I'm interested to know your thoughts and opinions on it, Bill.
Well, the challenge, Tom, has to do with when the need for choice runs into the need for safety. I want to choose something, and then I want to be safe about something. And the need for choice is something that we really value as independent American citizens. We do get a lot of choices here versus other countries. Do other countries depend upon the goodwill of others greater than, or do they do the opposite? Some countries do. The other thing is that we do not trust other people, and we have a lot of rules around oppression. So in America, we have this very, very strong push and pull between the need for choice and the need for safety, the need for independence and the need for community. And we have this pull, and the thing that always gets me upset is that we need to have the and both conversation, not the either or conversation. The and both conversation is that, well, if you're in your house and we know some of the constraints of the virus the way it is, well, then and you're safe with all the people that are safe still means you get the freedom to do that. But the challenge is that when you go out, the need for community goes ahead of the need for independence and the need for freedom, because we're trying to do something as a collective. We're looking to collectively stop something. It's the same thing with vaccines, or the same thing with health regulations. It's the same thing with, emission standards. I mean, emission standards says all of a sudden, we don't want smog that kids can't breathe and can't go out into the playground during lunch or breaks. They can't go out because the smog warning is too high. Well, that forces California cars to have a high degree of emissions control. Other states don't have the same emissions control. It doesn't mean that they're not polluting. It just means that when a person can't see it, they think it's not there. If it's not impacting the greater good of the state, then we're not going to put in. We're not caring about what's going to happen at the ocean. We're not going to care about the atmosphere, because our state is not like California. Well, why is California unique? Well, we have these things called mountains, and these mountains trap smog into and press it down to the ground. In Florida, they don't have that. So guess what? The emissions control in Florida cars are less than the emission controls in California cars. Why is that? Well, every night, the Atlantic Ocean blows all the smog away from Florida and either into the Gulf of Mexico or back out into the Atlantic. How do we know this to be true? Just stand there. Anybody that's familiar with smog, just stand there, look at Miami, look at Fort Lauderdale, and you will see the yellow stuff going right up into the clouds. And it's like, can't you see that? Oh yeah, I can see it, but it really doesn't bother anybody because it's going one way or another. But what about the ocean and the coral reefs and it bothers something in the environment. It kind of, and you just went through your hot spell, Tom, and in California about the temperature. What were you yesterday? What was your temperature?
Oh my gosh, we were here in where I live in Southern California, we were 110 degrees, which I've lived here for 16 years or 14 years, something like that. And I forget, a long time. And it's never been that hot here. And it was 2 days in a row, 106 one day, 110 the next. That's like Phoenix, Arizona weather or Las Vegas weather in the middle of summer.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of September, so there we have that. And the at my house, although I wasn't there, my son reported it was 121 where he was.
Wow.
And I was going like that. That's not something that we've had here. The hottest day in the record of Woodland Hills, California, being 120 or 121 yesterday is something that, and the power outages, the rolling blackouts that took place, and then people just trying to scramble to stay inside. And some people had their power out for 8 hours. Now that's a tough run, because now all of a sudden it's like, well, what happens if you were in a prolonged 2-week period of something like that? Now that's a what if scenario, but it bringing it back to what does the need for safety look like? What does health look like? How do we do this as a community versus what this wonderful passage that you read for us. This is individuals get to choose whatever they want, and the other people are at the consequence of these other people choices. So it's a little hard. This is a hard discussion.
It really is. I mean, because I think that the vast majority of Americans could agree on proper food preparation safety. I mean, we've all seen in the news reports when, some food item at Chipotle causes an outbreak of norovirus. And that's happened a few times in the recent years. And people get very, very sick from improper food handling, improper food preparation. And there was a big effort to clean stuff like that up. And there are many regulations. I believe they come down to either state or even county or local regulations for food safety, preparation, all that. But I would, and the other thing is, I think maybe some of you watching or listening have watched a TV show on the Food Network called Restaurant Impossible or something like that, where they come in and clean up restaurants that a lot of times are just failing financially or from a business perspective. But oftentimes what's very, very scary honesty that we get sometimes is poor food storage conditions, poor cleanliness in the kitchen and in the walk-ins and refrigerators, or the environment your food is cooked in, that none of us ever see when we get this pretty plate of food served at the table. Of course, this is when we could go out to restaurants, but that this is really scary stuff. So again, to return to my point, I think most Americans could agree, though, right? Most Americans could agree that having rules, regulations, standards for food preparation is a good thing for public safety. I would hope at least most Americans can agree on that.
I think so. I think there's a general sense of agreement that, and does everybody need to be at the consequence of somebody's bad choice? And do human beings err on caring for others or meeting their own needs at the expense of others? Well, I think what we're starting to realize is that we're leaning towards the individual gets to meet their needs at the expense of other people. That's where we're landing right now. Now, that could be a swing. This could be the swing back to, no, we're not doing it that way. We're all in this together. And we're just going to take who's here, not wishing there were other things here or other people weren't going to be here. We're the people that are here, and we need to move back to a collective sense of this is what's good for the entire nation versus this is good for some people who want to be independence over community. I'm not interested in your grandma. I'm just interested in my independence or my point of view or my choices. And I'm going to express that out on the internet and find other people who are just as mad about their need for independence not being met, at the expense of the needs of others. and that's when it gets very, very unsettling, is because we don't have as healthy a community dialogue and as much as an individual or identity. This is who I am as a group of people advocating for this, and because you're looking after the needs of the many over the needs of the few, you're taking my rights away? No, we're asking you to pay attention to the needs of the community. And this is what a lot of politicians are missing. It's like, here's the community narrative, sounds like this, and here is what the independent narrative, and it sounds like that. Which one are we going to pick? Are we going to be a nation that does it at the expense of others, or are we going to be a nation that doesn't do that? We're going to be in this together. Which one?
But it's very interesting how wearing a mask has become such a symbol of freedom or oppression, depending on your perspective and your beliefs. And, and it's become politicized in a way that it shouldn't. Probably largely because the president of the United States really doesn't wear a mask unless he really is. It's been only one time, I think, maybe two times in the last 6 months that he's worn one and allowed himself to be actually seen wearing it. And he really, and people whose political views are in alignment with his, I believe, take that to mean, yeah, he doesn't really support wearing masks. He doesn't think it's American. He doesn't think people should have to. And so he's leading by example and I think creating some of this political polarization regarding mask wearing. But I do think that the food prep analogy and the washing your hands in the bathroom before returning to work analogy, are really good ones. I mean, can you imagine at the Freedom Café, instead of a little sign by the sink that says employees must wash hands before returning to work, if it said, we respect the right of our employees to express their independence and give them the option to wash their hands or not before returning to work? How many people would leave that restroom and walk right out of the restaurant instead of going back to their table to sit and eat? I mean,
or never come back again.
Right.
I mean,
and so why, what is it going to take for people to believe that mask wearing makes a difference and is equally important to some of the rules that we have around our food preparation at restaurants?
Well, I think mask wearing is one thing, but the bigger issue has to do with the assault on regulation. It's nobody wants to be regulated, but at the same time, regulation is really a law that says this is a standard of activity that we're doing. And see, it's really, and to have those regulations to be independent and bipartisan is what it used to be at the EPA or at the health and public services. There was no political agenda. It's like, here's what we know as the best thing to do for this thing. And the politicians were supposed to go hands off. It's an independent thing. And then you just point to it and say, it's an independent thing. And this is an independent science thing, so that you could allow a discussion of truth be around this independent thing. But as soon as you say, change this regulation into this organization that's supposed to be independent, well, now it's an assault on truth and trust, which is very, very unsettling. And what winds up happening is that anybody then with an idea gets to be an expert. And that's not good, because if you read something on the internet, and you and I talk about this often, is you read something on the internet and you go like, well, is that true? Well, it seems like it is. It makes sense to me. But meanwhile, it's like, oh my gosh, did I just take the bait on somebody pushing a bias in my direction? It's a part of what makes some form of logical sense. And then therefore, it means XYZ. And where somebody that throws their belief in on it and says, I'm all in on this belief, they're now pinning their identity and their self-worth and their things, and therefore they can't let it go, because if I let this go, then all the other house of cards that I've constructed gets let go too. Instead of just being a human being and said, listen, I got this one wrong, I got this one right. I got this one wrong, I got this right. And it's okay 10 years from now that we can say, hey, 10 years ago, we got this one wrong. But now I'm going to make adjustment in my belief so I can have it right. I can adjust my thinking, because we need to adjust our thinking about how we're communicating with each other, because I don't know about you, Tom, but you and I might have a family member that comes over at Thanksgiving, or a family member that comes over at Christmas time, and they might have a belief that's different from ours, and it could literally throw anything between sand, dirt, mud, or violence in the middle of one of our holidays. Just saying,
Oh yeah, no, it could be very difficult. And I've in the past, I've had some tricky situations at some of those family gatherings. I don't know my kids if it was Thanksgiving or not, but especially around somehow, if the Second Amendment comes up, that's another, sort of third rail issue that, it can be very difficult to have a conversation, even with a member of your own family, about these things. And there's going to be an awful lot of that taking place, I'm sure, at the dinner tables at Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, politically, of course. The interesting thing, the irony is, when you talk about regulations, and regulation is seen as a dirty word, I think especially if you're on the right side of the political aisle, regulation equals bad, right?
Right.
And usually, because it gets in the way, it's perceived anyway to get in the way of business, right? The irony is, it was Richard Nixon who put the Environmental Protection Agency in place, and I think he did stuff about Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act. These things led to the EPA, I believe. Yeah. And and now it's become such a thing where it's seen as bad. But again, that's always surprises me. I mean, usually people complain about regulations, especially when polluting is the easy way out, right? And there may very well be a way that you can still make just as good a profit in business if you actually obey the regulations and just do things differently. But people resist change. Businesses resist change. They want to do what's easy. And this becomes the tug of war. But eventually things do go in the direction of people generally want clean air, generally want clean water. They don't want their yard to be polluted. They want somebody else's to be polluted. So, not in my backyard attitude, I guess. So why does it get political?
The power exchange. The power exchange is the hard part on this. This one is really, really hard to stand down, and to stare down and actually take an action on. There's several. This could be any city at all, but there is the one specifically I know about. There's a city in Utah that has a processing plant that literally dumps the waste for the processing plant in the river that goes by the town. They dump it in. Now the city, the members, the constituents had it. They said to the mayor, and to everybody, listen, we cannot have this company keep dumping their sewage in a place. City members go to the company and say, listen, we gotta clean this up. The company literally said to the mayor and the citizens, no, if you make us clean this, we are going to move us out, which will then decimate the town because, a third of this town is being employed by this company. Now all of a sudden it's like, we have no power now because they're going to move. Now, the integrity answer is move. Please move now. Congratulations, you will be moving. We'll be fine without you because our citizens can rebound. We might not rebound the way we would like to, but quite frankly, we're going to pick the environment over jobs. Now, as soon as I say that, oh my gosh, you can see that the security. I just cut off all of these different employees. All of these different people have just lost their jobs. That's their livelihood. That's the schools. That's their, their shelter. It's like if there's not a relationship between regulation and there's nobody overlooking things, then basically you can make, I don't know, let's make asbestos legal again. Let's make lead in the paint legal again. Let's make these things legal again. Now, as I just went down those two, that's happening right now. It's a part of something that happened, let's bring asbestos back, and there are, like, wow, huh? Like, huh? Like, yeah, we're not going to charge, we're not going to, and now that it's legal, you can't sue for it because it's legal. Because now you can't have a case because it's legal, and we're going to favor those people that own those companies. It's like, it's really tough because human beings have we do have to take care of ourselves and our own needs, but we do have a relationship with the other human beings in the environment. We can't just keep saying, I don't care about my neighbor. I don't care about my community, or I don't care about the next city. The next city has a bunch of people that are lower income than me. I can't care about them. All I care about is my city, which is why I moved out of that other city into this other city, because I didn't want to live in the low income city over there. You see, there's like, it's very, very unsettling, this discussion, because it's the relationship between economy and regulation. How do we do the efficiency versus a regulation or a rule? How do we do regulations versus safety? It's a little bit tweaky because we need to have the and or dialogue, either or both and both dialogue versus then the yes, no, or one way or another. So it's hard to discuss that.
It is hard to discuss it. And I think the issue with the mask is complicated a lot because a lot of people in America have a belief that the virus is a hoax or that it's not really as bad as they're being told it is. And therefore, I think if they were to, read this passage I read, from the paper about the Freedom Café, they would say, oh, right. but food safety and preparation and, washing hands when you're preparing food, that we can all agree on. We all know that's real, but you're not really believing this stuff about the virus, are you? I mean, I could see those biases playing into why they wouldn't see food preparation, food safety,
in the same category,
washing dishes in the same category as the wearing masks, which is maybe it's a bit of a flat earth mindset, because you can see dirty dishes, you can see dirty hands, you can see a dirty kitchen that food's prepped in, and you you can visualize that more than you can these aerosol teeny tiny droplets staying in the air for hours when people breathe or cough or sneeze.
Yeah, and they are carrying, there is the carrying capacity of those things in the environment, and there is a certain resilience and non-resilience to the virus in the environment. And the question is that, it's if we meet the need for safety and meet the need for certainty in certain ways, then we get our freedom back. But if we don't meet the need for certainty and the need for safety, then freedom is actually prolonged. And also there's this trail of death that follows behind it.
Yeah, you mean the infringement of freedom is prolonged, I think is what you meant, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
So it's interesting. There is irony there. People don't want to feel the short-term pain. They are hoping, and it's one of my mantras in business is always, hope is not a plan. Hope is not a strategy. You can hope it's going to go away. Like Trump said, well, in April when it warms up, it's magically going to go away. When the weather warms up, it's going to go away. You can hope that's going to happen, but hope is in this. And I'm not saying you shouldn't hope for the best. However, hope is not a strategy. If you get what you hope for, you were lucky.
Right.
So it's unfortunate.
That's the thing. It is. It really, really is. And the word regulation as a structure of thing is really a part of the relationship between safety and efficiency. Because it's that, efficiency can give you profits, but it doesn't necessarily increase response time, which is exactly what our economy has shifted to. All this double down over the need for efficiency in order to meet the need for profit does not necessarily cover things when they're in crisis. And I know we've had a discussion about this, the greatest profit that the medical industry has is the emergency room. Well, who wants to get rid of the themergency room with planned care? No, but none of the hospitals do, because that's their greatest profit.
To shift from a system that the economics of it are built around, healing people that are sick is much more profitable than preventing people from getting sick in the first place. Preventive care versus sick care. That's the big thing. Well, all right. Well, Bill, before we wrap this episode, let's have a little humor injected into it today. I think we could use a little levity, don't you?
Yeah, that would be fine. So what do we got in levity for us?
Well, so over this past weekend, Labor Day weekend, there was these Trump boat parades that were going on around the country. That were organized, and so. And it is maybe humorous to some and not others, I will admit, but this Trump boat parade, all these Trumps are emblazoned with Trump flags, Trump signs, all sorts of Trump icons, and it was very notable, especially in Texas, that there were several boats that were in the parade that were sinking. Due to a number of circumstances. And so, there was high winds. I think there was other issues, and they actually sunk. And so, all the memes are starting to come out of these Trump emblazoned boats sinking, like Trump is a sinking ship. And it was just so darn humorous to me to see that. And then I also was thinking back to, I think it was after one of the hurricanes early in the Trump administration, where President Trump visited the South, Florida maybe, I forget where, but looking at a bunch of wreckage, and there were a bunch of quotes and tweets he put out that one of them became the title of a book. Stephen Colbert wrote and put out, which is the entire book comes from Trump's tweets. And the book is called Whose Boat Is This Boat? And because that's what he said, whose boat is this boat? Anyway, it was very humorous. And so I'm just waiting tonight, one of the first nights back after Labor Day, because all the late night comedians were off in the run up to Labor Day. But this happened over the weekend. They're back. I'm just waiting for Stephen Colbert to roll out, the images of the boats sinking with Trump flags, and then for him to bring out whose boat is this boat again. I'm sure he'll do something on it. But,
I think so. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's a great example to kind of stick the landing on boating regulations, boating safety. How do we care for each other in the environment? And as soon as you start railing against regulation, you're railing against safety and protection. And we've got to really restore our memory that, do we want to live in an unregulated, dirty America that doesn't have the ability to care for our neighbors? And, if somebody, is unaccountable for something, we've got to make ourselves more accountable collectively, not from a shame or a guilt place, but from a place of, integrity and accountability. How about that? Hey, you see something on the ground, pick the damn thing up. I mean, if something is out of place, throw it in the garbage can. I mean, if a car is polluting, well, make it so it doesn't pollute. If a piece of food is, needs to be kept, and we need to rate the restaurant to an A, B, or C, rate the restaurant, and have that restaurant inspected. And because the need for safety and protection, can it go overboard? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's not that cost effective to do it. But again, how do we pay for the need for safety or a collective agreement, and make that work better? Anyways, so, the next time, I think, Tom, we could talk about accountability and move that in, as well as, how can we restore expertise? I think that might be helpful for us for next time.
Oh, expertise. That's great. Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good, Bill.
All right. More to come, Tom. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.